Scientific topics crop up in our everyday lives, on social media, in passing conversations, in media reports. How well equipped are we to judge the accuracy of that information? That's where science literacy matters, something that the Ontario Science Centre knows a fair bit about. Dr. Maurice Bitran is CEO and Chief Science Officer at the Ontario Science Centre, and he joins us now. Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you. Thank you for having me.
So this past summer, you conducted a survey which looked at science literacy in Canada. What are the top three sources for people's knowledge of science?
We find that, not surprisingly, people get knowledge about science from school. Everybody goes to school. Also from what they read, books, magazines, etc.
We're looking at the chart right now.
And also the internet, of course, is very ubiquitous. So those are the main three sources, and they haven't changed that much from last year.
So you mentioned friends and family also play a role in the science knowledge that we know. What role do they play?
Yeah, they play a very important role. We find that the more people have in their family people who know about science or work in science, the more they themselves know about science, the more they do science activities, and the more interest they have in science. Researchers call this the family science capital. So the higher the family science capital, the more people know about science, the more interest they have in science. So it's important to increase this family science capital, and also...
But how do you do that if you don't have anyone that you're related to?
And that's where community activities like the Ontario Science Centre contribute to the community science capital. So even if your family doesn't have a lot of people that know about science, you can go to a place where you can talk to people that know about science. And that increases the community science capital.
And you mentioned children learn about science first in school, and I have two small kids, so we spend a lot of time there. When you asked in the survey, when you asked about the extent to which people trust various sources to deliver accurate and fact-based information, how gratifying was it for you to see museums and science centers at the very top of the trust scale?
We were over the moon. We were very happy to see that science centers and museums had the most trusted source, with 90%, and actually last year was 89%, so it's been consistent. That also is a big responsibility. I think people look at us as a place that doesn't have an agenda, but wants to give the straight goods and want to have a conversation, meet people where they are at in their knowledge of science, and have a conversation without scientific jargon about the many changes that science is bringing to our lives.
I know most people would want to go to the Science Centre, but sometimes costs can prohibit them from going. Do you ever think about maybe what that would look like if it was more accessible for everybody?
So accessibility is a really important issue for us. We bring about 100,000 people through our accessibility programs without paying to the Science Centre. That's about 10% of our visitation. We have a program called Adopt a Class, where we get private sector sponsors that pay for a full class to get a bus, come to the Science Centre, have programs, lunch, movie, etc. And so we have about 30,000 kids that comes through this Adopt a Class program. So we're constantly looking for ways of being more accessible to the community. We just had our Community Day, September the 23rd, when the center was totally free, and we had almost 8,000 people coming in for that day.
What areas of science do you feel a particular responsibility to illuminate for Ontarians?
Well, everybody has their own likings. I think, for me personally, my background is in astrophysics, and but I know that's what I like. I think the important thing for the public at large is to be comfortable about science, understand how science works, being able to discriminate with the information that they get, what is reliable, what is not, and ask the right questions. So more than a discipline, my interest is in people feeling more comfortable with the process of science, the scientific method.
And, you know, the Science Centre is here in Toronto, but how do you get science out to everybody else that might not be here?
Yeah. So in addition to the 1 million people a year that come to the Science Centre, we have programs that go out, and we have, through telepresence programs, have classes and demonstrations for kids in the north. And we have people from different parts of the city coming to the Science Centre through this Adopt a Class program that pays for the transportation. We also have partnerships with other organizations, and we have a presence of the Science Center with different organizations.
Can you explain what that is, telepresence?
Oh, it's a way to have an interactive dialogue through a video display with a class that is in the north. So it's not
so
just...
it's a video, maybe like a video
like
conference?
a video conference with the ability to ask questions and answers.
You know, when we go to the Science Center, we're always looking to learn something new. And as somebody who, I guess, curates what we experience, is there an exhibition that you've held that opened up your eyes to a different part of science that you might not have known more about before?
So we get every year 3 or 4 new exhibits. Some of them we develop, some of them we rent to show at the Science Center. The one that surprised me, recently we had an exhibit called Popnology, and it was about the impact of popular culture on technology. And it's not something I thought about before, but you see that, you know, in the 30s, Dick Tracy was talking to his watch, and now actually we have something that works like that in technology. So the idea that popular culture, imagination, can lead us to discover or work in a certain area, I think is very powerful. In a sense, we only discover what we look for, and imagination leads the way. I thought that was really interesting.
In what other ways, I think that's really interesting what you just said, in what other ways can imagination open us up to the world of science?
Well, Albert Einstein said imagination is more important than knowledge. And as we have many of the tasks that are going to be done by artificial intelligence, I think creativity, imagination, critical thinking are going to become the most sought after skills.
And how do you get people engaged into science? Because I think when you're small, for me anyway, there were some subjects that I thought that I maybe wasn't as smart enough to access. How do you get people to know that there's so much about science that's going on around them and they can access it?
I think early exposure is crucial. I think that if we wait, you know, for the kids to be 14, 15, and they can drop science from their curriculum, it's too late. We need to really have kids much younger exposed to fun things about science. And that's what we try to do. I mean, when you talk to people who've made a career in science or in technology, like Chris Hadfield, who often comes to the Science Center, he says that he saw the astronaut, he saw the lunar landing, he came to the Ontario Science Center, saw a rock from the moon there, and that kind of sealed his path. And we hear about these kind of experiences all the time. So we're very aware that this early exposure is very important, and that's what we try to do it in a way that is fun, that is surprising, and that engages the imagination of the kids. And kids respond to that wonderfully.
Even grown-ups. I want to get back into the survey one more time. When asked whether science is contributing to an improvement in the quality of life, 92% of people 65 and over agreed that it was. Are you surprised that seniors are more optimistic about science than younger Canadians?
It's an interesting question. I don't know the reason for that, but maybe as you get older and you have to rely on medicine to help you with a hip replacement or something, and you become more aware of the importance of science in having a very positive impact in your life, maybe that has something to do with it. But generally, people have this confidence that science will make things better. That coexists with some concern about some developments, like self-driving cars, artificial intelligence, and people want to know about that, more about that. So I think there is optimism in general, but also there is a need to have dialogue about some of the new technologies that are coming on stream.
We hear stories all the time about millennials having to teach their grandparents about technology. So they have access to it, but why don't they trust it more?
That's a good question. It may have to do with age and experience. I don't really know the answer. I don't think that the survey tells us why.
Do you also think that there might be that thought that something is not science, but it is? Because we might not know what is classified as being scientific?
That's an interesting question, because I think often we rely on use technology and we don't even know to the extent to which that's based on science. I mean, all our communications technology is based on electromagnetic theory and the science. Now we have quantum development that will mean that in the future we'll have all this technology based on quantum computing and quantum encryption that's based on science. So we just see the application and we don't see how far it goes to science. That's something that I think we need to work on making that link more clear and evident.
Even maybe having an exhibition.
Yes.
That would be cool. For my industry, for journalists, going back to the survey, it shows that the trust that Canadians have in getting accurate and fact-based information, we're looking at the chart again, journalists rank well below friends and family. How do we change that? I mean, I'm asking from a purely selfish reason, but also I think it's really important to realize where the disconnect is. How do we change that?
I think science communication is key, and journalists play a big role on that. I think that the level of noise in everyday communication sometimes makes people overstate a point and perhaps make something that is nuanced into something more definitive than what it really is. And so this, if it bleeds, it leads, and the soundbite conspire against getting the nuance of the information. And so if you hear one day that red wine is good for you, and the next week red wine is bad for you, then your confidence on that information is going to be lower. So I think it's important that we all explain and understand what science can tell us and what it cannot tell us. And so the more we understand that, I think the better the trust on the information is going to be.
Dr. Bitran, thank you so much for being here and sharing your insights. I'll see you at the Ontario Science Center.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.